Brought to you by NewGreens.
Hello, today's guest is Angel Cortez. He's 31 years old. He's had a really interesting life. He was born and raised in Santa Ana, California. Grew up loving skateboarding, but also got into a lot of trouble when he was a kid. He decided to enlist in the military when he was 17 years old. He spent 8 years in the U.S. Army, with much of that being with the United States Army Rangers. Once he got out, he decided he wanted to become a dietitian, but as he was doing that, he found his true love, which was forming his own company called OG Pumpkin. He's also doing wonderful things with the veteran community, working with Defense Strategies Group. We hope you enjoy this show. He dives into some really awesome, complex subjects, and we were all moved listening to him. He's extremely honest, extremely open, and I know you're going to enjoy the show.
No, thank you guys for having me. Like I was telling you earlier, I grew up hearing and watching you, didn't even know it was you. And seeing you still skate, how you skate, it's the reason why people tell me, you're 30, why are you still skating? And I'll be like, well, Tony Hawk and other guys are still doing it, I can do it. Mm-hmm. So, it feels weird. Like, is surreal the word?
Yeah, I get like that every time I'm around Todd.
Yeah.
But slowly, after you get to know him, you realize he's a normal man.
It's just really, you're disappointed, I guess really that's what we're talking about. But it's that's kind of like what this show is about, is basically being able to do what you've always loved, how you maintain that, and what different people's avenues are to get there. So I guess why don't you give us a little background on where you came from, what you do, and what it is that you're passionate about right now.
Yeah, but before that, and Jonathan too, man. I saw your series on surfing. I remember this dude's hilarious. And I'll never forget when you asked for a board. You're like, I want a board that rides two foot waves.
2 foot to 20 foot waves.
Yeah. I remember just laughing because when I first started surfing, I remember being like, is there a board that does everything? Because I had no idea. You got this board, that board, foam. And I was just like,
are you still as stoked on surfing as you were in the beginning? You're still into it?
Yeah, super stoked. Okay. Yeah.
But you're a way better skater than surfer, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're still part of the tribe, brother. We're glad you came. I first discovered you on some podcasts. On Cleared Hot is where I first heard you. And Cleared Hot, if you guys don't know, is a really popular podcast that's done by an ex-Navy SEAL. Yep. What's Andy's last name?
Andy Stumps.
Andy Stumps. And I heard your story, and I was moved by it. And then we came together through Instagram. We connected there. And I've shot with you a few times. It's just been awesome. You've always been super cool to me. And I just think your story's fascinating. So why don't you go ahead and jump into it, the question Todd said.
Yeah, so, my name's Ranger Regiment. I was born and raised in Southern California. The first one in my family to be born here. And we were dirt poor. As you can imagine, growing up, all you're hearing is Spanish music, Spanish TV, but I was so stoked on skateboarding, on what America has to offer. And one of the things is service members. I grew up watching all these war movies, and I wanted to be like them. I like Superman and Batman just like everybody, but I knew Batman's not gonna come. But these soldiers, they're real. They're the real deal. And in a lot of ways, they showed me a lot of things that I wanted that were missing in my life, and that was community, brotherhood, people caring for you, and that some of them look like me. I'm not big, and some of these guys just look like normal human beings. Mm-hmm. So as soon as I had the opportunity to join, I joined. I was 17 when I brought the recruiter to my mom, and I remember she started crying. She was like, "Are you serious about this?" And I was like, "Yeah."
What year was this?
2007.
Okay. So it's post 9/11.
Right,
so
right.
Mom and Dad know that there's active war going on.
Yeah.
There's counterterrorism operations. You know that,
Yep.
and you're still a kid. You're 17 years old.
Yep.
So I can understand your mom being concerned about that.
Oh, definitely. But I would tell her all I ever did was watch war movies.
Right.
When I remember when my grandma asked, "What do you want on your birthday cake?" I think I was 11 or 12, and I was like, "I want a soldier." So on my birthday cake, when I was 11 or 12, it's toy soldiers. That's what I wanted. So I joined, and almost immediately I went to Iraq, and it was based off my childhood. I had to grow up real fast, but the military is, in my opinion, is where I grew to become a man.
Right.
And it was serious business, and almost immediately, you're in Iraq. It's almost like going to another planet. I like to say that when you go to a different corner of the United States, that's like going to another country. You can't tell me Miami is like New York, and New York is in like Montana. So when you go to another country, it's almost going like to another planet. They don't speak the same language. They don't, anything that is familiar to you is not there. Brands, food,
Smells.
And people are getting hurt. You're there for a certain reason, but I was lucky enough to have a mentor. His name was Hugo Vanderwall. He was we call him military brats. He was born and raised on the military base, and he was very wise for his age. And I remember he brought me under his wing, and he was just feeding me all information. A lot of it I didn't understand. I wasn't intelligent enough. Like for example, growing up, English was hard for me. I remember being in third grade, and while everyone is doing English classes, normal English material, I'm taking out and I'm reading kindergarten books. Sam Likes Ball and stuff like that. So he's just giving me all this information. I'm trying to take it in. He's also giving me life information, and I told him, I want to be in special operations, and he told me, you can do it. If you believe in yourself and put in the work, you can do it. So I built myself physically, and he helped me build myself also more important mentally. And I dropped the packet to join 75th Ranger Regiment, and I ended my military career of 8 years in special operations.
What was it like? Okay, so you're talking about going into, you go to Iraq, you're basically 17, 18 years old. What is it like going in? Like, was it basically being dropped into kind of active combat right away, or like basically into situations where it's you 2 weeks ago you were at home, everything was cool, now you're basically looking over your shoulder every second of every day.
I remember the night, there's a picture that was taken from me the night before, the day we flew out, and I looked tired because I couldn't sleep, because I you talk to the guys who've been there before, and they tell you, like, as soon as we get there, it's on. There's no, hey, let's slow you into this. No, it is on. And the day we got there, the airfield was already getting mortared. So immediately I was like, okay. And then you hear, they were also shooting at us. They didn't hit the bird, but they were already shooting at us, and you're like, okay. But before that, you're already mentally preparing yourself. So at least for me, I can speak for myself, I was in shock, like, oh man, I thought I had time. I was like, okay, well let's do this. But yeah, I also went to Afghanistan, and depending on what time and where you go, the action is more or less. And for me, the mountains of Afghanistan is where I was dealing with suicide bombers. I was digging IEDs, which are bombs, with my bare hands. I was taking off my kit because I'm the smallest guy on my team to go into manholes where they're hiding, and like entrance to little caves, and I would come out with holding a bomb because that's where they were hiding it. And it was Afghanistan was hands down the toughest. Like when you're young, the young soldier, you want to get into the fight. You want to say, I would say, I can't wait to get in a gunfight, so on. And the older guys would be like, you don't know what you're talking about. And everything that I asked for plus more, I got in Afghanistan. Friends dying, people getting hurt left and right every day, multiple gunfights in a day, in multiple days, where you get no breaks, day or night. To give you an example, my last deployment, we made the news 3 times, and there was even a book written about it. So, yeah. And
you're married at this time. You got married really young. Am I correct?
I did. I met my wife in 2nd grade. She was my friend, and I tried. It wasn't like we were high school sweethearts. Mm-hmm. I was like a dog with Stang hanging out all through high school.
Me too. It's cool. We all have our past. So you're hanging out, and you knew each other from high school since second grade.
And I was trying to get with her, but she was not that type, and she's like, I know how you are.
Mm-hmm.
No, which is probably a big reason why I married her.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was getting ready to go to Iraq, and we'd been kind of hanging out and getting a little bit somewhat serious, and I asked her, just didn't even say, hey, let's start dating, let's get to know each other. I mean, we've known each other since we were 7. I was like, you want to marry me?
Get married, let's do it.
And I did it by text too. I was
classy,
solid
gentlemen. I do everything by text, breakups, all of it. It's good. So you guys get married, and what I'm thinking of is your stress levels. You're in your 20s. You're at war. There's combat going on. You are dealing with the most stress that a human being can have put on them. Then you're coming home from deployments that last how long?
Sometimes anywhere between 6 to 12 months.
So 6 to 12 months, and then you come back to a spouse who I'm imagining she's watching you and seeing you change each time you go away and come back.
Yeah.
And probably not necessarily for the better.
Yeah, for sure. And
are you managing that stress at all in a healthy way at this point?
No,
or are you...
not at all. I hear it's getting better now, but at the time when I would come home, you're home and you're still turned on, right? And you have friends who died or got hurt, and you're happy to be back, and you start raging, and then maybe you start drinking, and the next thing you know, you're drinking all more than you usually would, but she would like let me be me, and for example, you just used to holding a rifle with you at all times, right? So when I got home, I grabbed my AK and I loaded it as we were going to bed, and I put it right next to me. And she didn't tell me anything. She didn't say like, hey, what are you doing? I'm calling the cops or anything. And then as weeks passed by, instead of putting it right next to me, I put it against the wall. Mm-hmm. And then time passed by, instead of putting it on the wall, I put it in the closet. And then one day I just put it away. Mm-hmm. And what was going on right there is that it took me that much time to really just settle back into being in the States. Yeah. And being, I guess you would say, turned off.
I think that's really interesting because my experience with people that have gone into active combat or people that have been in service, like I've known a few over my lifetime, but never to the point where like, you don't really hear those stories about, you hear maybe you're at a party and someone's telling you about, telling you the things they can tell you about. They don't really open up the door to like what the real deal is, and it's different than seeing it in a movie and listening to you tell me about it, because it really is what everyone says it is. Like you're still there, like you're 100% mentally still there.
I feel like a piece of you doesn't come back, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, because war, I like to describe it as it was the worst, best, saddest, happiest, fulfilling, awful thing I've ever done in my life. Mm-hmm. While we're out there, relationships are built that last a lifetime, that are in some stronger than I have with relatives or family members or friends that I've known for a long time. Mm-hmm. I know there's some states that I can go to in some cities, and I call somebody up like, hey, I'm in town, I need a place to stay, or what, I got you, whatever it is, and it's a calling, and it's a thrill, and it's a drug. That's why I say war is a drug, because there have been times where things that used to, get my heart rate up or give me a thrill, it just kind of wasn't, and you kind of take more risk because you want that high. Mm-hmm. So it's just.
I guess that's like to kind of like put that into context of someone, because we have a lot of people, we were talking at the beginning of this, like skating, snowboarding, like these adrenaline based sports. Now you grew up skating. Yeah. Do you find that since you were in combat situations that you're not scared of stuff anymore? Like as far as like skating goes, like how could a 12 stair be as intimidating as someone trying to blow me up with an IED? Like, you know what I mean?
To a certain degree, yes, but I know that if it's gonna hurt. and I learned that recently. I don't take hits as well as I used to. Sure. I ate it real hard recently in front of my wife, and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah." started skating for 5 more minutes, and then I just got off my board, and I was like, I'm done, and that put me out for a week, you know.
So one of the things I found fascinating, you get out of the Army and you decide you want to become a dietitian.
Yes.
So this is a show where we talk about health. You go from
We're gonna talk about health now.
I'm segueing into some other things. Don't want to get too deep. We'll come back to it. But you decide you want to become a dietitian. Yep. How do you go from the military, Army Ranger, special operations to I want to go to school and I want to help people have a good diet? Where does that come from?
So in the special, once I got into the special operations community, it's just a higher caliber of not just individual but soldier, and a lot of them, you know, they do other stuff outside, and some of them, you know, train martial arts and even compete. And I've always, you know, grew up watching, you know, Van Damme, Jackie Chan,
Club.
Yep. Yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger, like all these movies, and some of them were like martial arts based. So I was like, I want to do that, and I'm like, well, just go into a gym. So I walked into a gym. I told them, you know, I'm stationed here. I want to train. So I started training, and my coach was like, hey, you want to compete? And I'm sure, why not? And he's like, all right. He's like, well, what are you going to fight at? And I was like, my weight. And he's like, no, man. He's like, fighters cut weight. And I'm like, and I learned that the hard way. So my first fight was on my natural weight, walking around weight. So when I went into the ring, that guy had cut and he didn't look like me. Yeah. And I was like, oh. And then he got on me. I could just feel his weight. And I was just like in survival mode, because once he would grab me, he knew he could push me around. My boxing was better than his, but once he clinched, I was just like a rag doll, you know. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna cut weight. I don't know anything about cutting. And then in Afghanistan, I got hurt. I was in a vehicle rollover. We have the Polaris razors. Mm-hmm. So we would take those, beef them up, and mount guns to the side of them. One day, the Taliban was gonna try to get on a ridge line and attack us. So we sent out 2 of them, and we going the long way around, and we caught up to them, and we killed them. And then 2 weeks later, we heard they were gonna do the same thing, and we thought, well, they're gonna try to, outmaneuver us because they know what we're gonna do. So we went to a higher ridge line, and it was very steep. I was the passenger, and the vehicle rolled over, and we just went down this mountain. I got tossed out, and I got hurt. So us being in special operations, not only do you have more expensive and cool guy gear, more training, but we have 2 multi-million-dollar facilities, gym facilities, and inside we have physical therapists, athletic trainers. So I had to go see the physical therapist and athletic trainer, and they were helping me build myself. And I never had experience with them, so I didn't really believe them. Like, I'm like, well, I'm in special operations, I know what to do. But working with him, I was like, oh, now I know why you're a professional in this area. And as I would walk by, I saw a sign said dietitian, and I'm like, I don't know what that means, but it's got diet in it, so it's got to do something with eating. So since I was gonna cut for my next fight, and I was working with all these professionals, and they were helping me build myself, I'm like, well, clearly I should walk in. Well, what do I have to lose? Mm-hmm. So I walked in, and it was this super short lady, but she knew how to talk to us. It's a special operation, the environment, you're always competing with each other. Even when you walk into a room, into a range, or you're shooting, you're training, whatever, no one says it, but you're competing. Mm-hmm. So she knew how to speak to us, and she said, what would you do when it comes to changing up your diet if I can make you 5-10% faster and stronger? And I'm like, anything. And she's like, okay, we talked for an hour. She gave me a meal plan, and she's like, and I told her that I was gonna cut for this fight. I need to get a certain weight. She's like, eat this. And I remember I got home, and I remember thinking, I don't know. I mean, I made it into special operations. I know what I'm doing when it comes to food. Mm-hmm. No, I didn't. I was wrong. I was so wrong. I told my wife, I handed her the meal plan. I'm like, can you make this for dinner? She's like, yeah, no problem. She gave me the plate. I remember being like, this can't be it. Like, and immediately what I noticed is that the protein portions were smaller. the carb portion was smaller, and the majority of the plate was vegetables. And she's like, "This is what the meal plan says." And she even weighed it out in front of me with the scale, and I was like, "Oh my god, okay." So I did that for 2 weeks, and I had the checkup, and within the 2 weeks, I looked leaner. My energy levels went higher. I didn't have like a midday crash. I used to think a midday crash is normal. Everyone crashes in the middle of the day. No, I just wasn't eating properly. My mood was better. My sleep was better. Going to the bathroom was easier. Because I used to be the guy that, like, if I ate a banana or a vegetable one day a week, I'm like, that's it. You're done. That's what you're supposed. That's what you're supposed to do. I had my veggies, and I was wrong. So when things were kind of slowing down, when it came to deployments, I went to a school, so I missed the last deployment. But my friends that came back, they're like, "Dude, we didn't do anything. There's so many restraints and restrictions," and it was time to get out. And my buddy's like, "Dude, go to school, get your degree." And I'm like, "Okay, what am I gonna go to school for?" And I'm like, "Well, I can't go to school for martial arts. I can't go to school for shooting." And I'm like, "Well, this whole diet thing, being a registered dietitian, I like that. I'm passionate about that, about nutrition and health, fitness. So I'll do that." And additionally, I mean, no one in my family has a college degree, so I'm like, I'm going to do this for my family to set the example. So that's how I decided to pick nutrition.
So that idea of wanting to overall improve your wellness, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention what happened a couple days ago. After 20 years in Afghanistan, we are no longer in Afghanistan, the United States. And everything that happened towards the way things were done, the way it ended, us pulling out of there, I'm sure brings up a lot of emotions for you. And I'd just like you to talk about that, about people in the veterans community and your personal stuff, how you've dealt with post-traumatic stress, and all of that. If you could dive into that.
Yeah, no, that's a lot. But I mean, right off the bat, I want to say I don't represent all veterans, but I do represent a lot of them, because a lot of us talk about these things when you're training, when you're deployed. Back now, we talk about this. How can we not talk about something that's been part of our lives, and it's affected us so much? And I want to say, initially you have the rage, you have all these emotions, and people say and do, or they might try to simplify things and be really angry. But this is what has happened. We knew it was going to happen. But we just didn't think it was going to happen this fast. The government is very corrupt. Their local police is nowhere near the quality of our police. Their average soldier isn't the quality of our average soldier. Their special operation units, they're decent, reliable. So a lot of us knew this was going to happen. We knew that they were going to probably have a civil war. There was going to be some fighting, and maybe the Taliban would take a couple areas. We never thought that they would take it all in 10 days. That a lot of them would just say, "You know what, I'm done." And in 10 days, this would happen. And then you have the crisis of trying to evacuate people and all this and that. And so immediately I try to go over there. I messaged some special operation guys who are still active.
To form a group to go and get people out. Basically.
Yeah, I wanted to go. I told them keep me in the loop. They were saying that we're trying to go over there. They're not even letting us. They don't want us. We bring it up. They get shut down. But this whole thing is the reason it's happening is because the mistakes that from the beginning of the war, those administrations and the current administration, their terrible decisions and or lack of decision, because this administration wasn't like they got handed something where the Taliban was defeated, the ideology was gone, the government was set, the police was set, the military was fine, the country as a whole was solid. That's not what happened. They got handed this huge ball fuck of mess, and they themselves fucked it up even more. And it's terrible. I know a lot of veterans are angry. They're upset. Many of them are drinking more, or But I like to be just not complain. I don't like to be in group chats or anything like that, or in person can complain about this and that. I'd rather just take action. So like I said, I just messaged a bunch of people like, hey, I'm ready. Like, however you can go. And I didn't know anybody who actually had something going that was solid and concrete. But a bunch of special operation veterans got together and they started evacuating interpreters and other soldiers who've worked with us. And it was called Operation Pineapple Express.
Great movie.
Yeah.
Great flick.
So, you know, I don't know who any of them are, but I mean, they're an amazing job, and it's people like them that make me be proud to be American.
Yeah, I mean, it's so insane because like in the beginning of this, you're saying you're going to another planet. So I think that's an amazing analogy for people to try to wrap their brain around in context of what they have in their everyday life, or in context of what they know, what they're familiar with, how unfamiliar it is. And like, you know, I had seen, you know, you see these images on the news of like people basically holding on to an airplane taking off, and it's like a normal person doesn't try to cling to an airplane unless it's dire straits.
That's how bad the situation is. That's how bad the Taliban are. You know, women have no rights. Only the top men are allowed to do whatever they want. There's a lot of kids that get abused physically and sexually because of them. You know, and it's their extreme version of Islam. So it's not like, I mean, I have Muslim friends, you know, but their extreme version of this whole thing is if that's not evil, then I mean, I'm not sure what is.
So like, you know, just for people and for my, you know, just answering this for me. So you have the Taliban that's been, you know, they were in control before 9/11, and then you also have Al Qaeda. So how do those two things kind of fit together? Because, you know, all we talked about for so long after 9/11 was Al Qaeda. But now it's like, you know, you're not really hearing about Al Qaeda. You're just hearing about the Taliban. So how are they intertwined as far as like what you would deal with, what we're dealing with right now?
So all these groups are active, whether the media, the mainstream media is talking about them or not talking about them, they're active. Al Qaeda is at one point, yes, very diminished, but they're active. They're rebuilding in other countries that are not stable. A lot of Africa, you know, a lot of you know, just anywhere. And they have different leadership, and depending on who's more powerful, you know, you'll see some ISIS, you know, come into an area and take control, and then a bunch of Taliban members say, you know what, I pledge my allegiance. So it's just really who's has more power in that area, and then that's the one who's going to be talked about more. But it's just they can change their names, whatever it is.
Doesn't matter.
But the problem is that I've come to realize, and a bunch of us thought, you know, if we don't do this correctly, our children are going to be the ones to deal with this. And then now that the Taliban has multi-million dollars of equipment from armored vehicles to rifles to helicopters, it's not if our kids are going to have to deal with this, they are. Because now in that area, like I said, it's all dependent on who's more powerful. So now in that area, who controls everything, it's the Taliban.
So shifting from that into, you know, basically, you have a foundation right now that kind of we were discussing before we kind of sat down about how, you know, there are a lot of guys out there that don't know how, they have all this shit rattling around in their head. It never leaves you. And you've kind of created a foundation that basically you guys can kind of get together and blow off steam. Basically, I don't even know if that's even like that's such a light term for it, but exude energy in a positive way and be able to, like, you know, be together and have a positive impact on each other.
Yeah. So like I was saying earlier, you know, Hugo van der Wal is a great mentor. One of the things that he taught me was, you know, don't bitch and complain about things all day, every day, because what are you doing? What is that definition if every single day I'm going to keep saying and doing this and not doing anything about it in a positive way? So immediately when I got out, I had heard the horror stories that the VA just gives you pills, this and this and that. and it didn't take much time. I remember one of my first visits to the VA, the lady I was talking to, she didn't even look up from the computer when she asked me, what pills are you on and what dosage do you want? And I remember thinking, like, I'm not on any pills.
Wow.
I came here because I want rehab, because like I said, we had multi-million-dollar equipment and facilities and staff in my unit. I just wanted a piece of that. I wanted to see a physical therapist for my knee, and she just wanted to give me pills. So I quickly saw that the veteran community, why suicides are so high is because, whether we know it or not, when you're getting out, is you lose your purpose and you lose your brotherhood, right? You might come out here to Southern California and be surrounded by millions of people, but you don't feel connected at all. So I saw that and felt that right away. So I immediately started hosting UFC fights at my house, because I compete and train to this day in martial arts. I told a bunch of veteran students and veterans from my gym, like, yo, just come to my house. And I bought the pay-per-view, and I would buy the food, and I did this for 3 years. And throughout this, I can talk about it now because, hopefully those days are way past me, but, I would go broke. I would go negative into my bank account or barely cover my bills. And at some points, I would just go to places and get these quick loans, because so I can just do these events, because so many veterans were telling me, like, hey man, like, this means a lot to me.
Want
Like,
to hang out.
they just want to hang out. They're missing their brotherhood and purpose. And by me doing this, it gave me a purpose, and I gained a community, a brotherhood. But then my wife was like, I'm pregnant. I know what these events mean to you. We have a third baby coming. We can't be doing this. We're going negative into our accounts. I know what these events mean to you. You gotta stop. And I was angry and I was sad, but she was right. And at this point, I kind of gained a small following in social media. So I decided to start a brand, and I called it OG Pumpkin. And one day I was watching The Office with my wife, and my 5-year-old came up to me and he drew this pumpkin right here. And he's like, "This is for you." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." And I'm like, this. And I told my wife, I was like, "This is it. This is gonna be the logo." So I printed out 100 stickers, and I asked who wants a sticker for free. And within 2 hours, all 100 stickers were spoken for. And anywhere that there's a military base, the stickers went. Spain, Germany, Italy, all over the U.S. So that's when I knew I have something going. And I just wanted to make enough funds to cover the UFC pay-per-views and the food. That's it. I had no idea that it was going to go what it's becoming now. I also saw rash guards, and so now I got like 9 UFC fighters that wear the rash guards. I got over 130 people that have OG Pumpkin designs tattooed on them. I've made enough money that now I sponsor college and high school kids who want to go into special operations and training for. The training gear isn't cheap. A pair of good Army boots is almost like $200. It fins, it all adds up. I sponsor them. All I ask is, like, send me a picture of your contract, and I usually have them do something funny in the picture, so I know it's not like they just found a contract.
Right.
They just send me a picture. And then I sponsor fighters from my gym. Some of them are amateur, some of them are pro. I sponsor my Muay Thai coach, who coached me through all of my fights. Now I can sponsor him, and it's my way of giving back to him, because whether he knows it or not, the training sessions with him really helped me go through a lot of stuff. So I have all these funds, and so then now I buy vehicles and we shoot to and from the vehicles. I buy a taco guy, I buy a band, and we have a good time, and it's free for all the veterans and law enforcement. And at this point, I've had 3-letter agency guys come over, sheriffs, marshals,
Instagram people.
Instagram.
I've been to 2 of these events, and it's the most fun for me. I grew up shooting guns because my dad was a police officer, so I had a basic understanding. And I went up there the first time with you guys, and I was like, I'm gonna shoot great. And then I got up there, I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing at all. But that's something that I think is incredible. You have maintained, since you've got out of the Army, your skill set. And you do that very intentionally. Your fitness, your shooting abilities, all of that, because I'm assuming you believe that those are skills that you need to keep sharp because you don't know what's going to happen in the world.
Yes, 100%. I even though I'm out of the service, I don't think my service to not my country, but now in a smaller scale, my community, it's not over. It's never over.
So last time we were there, and you've been kind enough to let me bring my father, and I brought my brother-in-law, and we had a great time. At one of the breaks with the taco truck, we're having a lunch break, and one of your associates who runs Defense Strategies Group, he said, I just want to talk to you guys about something real quick. A lot of people I know, including myself, have been having great success with therapeutic doses of mushrooms when it comes to dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder. And my father, who's 70 years old and has never touched a drug or alcohol, his eyes went, like, these special operations guys are dirty hippies? They're into the drugs, the hallucinogens? So can you tell me what that is and have you done it yourself?
Yes. So when I got out, I wanted to continue my success into the civilian world. I knew it wasn't going to be handed to me. I knew I would have to work real hard, but the way I saw it was if I can apply myself like how I did at my unit, I'll get my degree. I won't be poor like I was growing up before the military. So I need to be balanced physically, mentally. So I would work out, do yoga, maintain my nutrition, build a community, do all this, and all this stuff was great and it was helping. But I felt like I was missing something. Like it was helping, but I needed more. And one day Mike brought it up. He's like, "Hey man, you ever done psychedelics?" And I told him no. I mean, besides smoking weed. And he's like, "Well, he did talk about mushrooms, but he also talked about ketamine, and that's what I did, the ketamine." Mm-hmm. And one day I did DMT. My coworker, he's like, I went away from the shop that used to print my clothes. I went away because of school. I came back and I can tell the head printer something was different from him. He looked calmer, chiller, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I did DMT." And I'm like, "I want to do it." And he's like, I got it in my house. I'll bring it tomorrow." So he brought the DMT pen. I did DMT in my limo, and
no way.
I.
By yourself, or do you have just by yourself?
By myself.
Okay.
And I came out and he looked at me and he was just laughing and I was just trying to process everything, and I probably did like little to no work that day, but he was letting me process the whole high. And I remember I was calm, but I just thought it's because I'm high. And then the next day I was still calm, and then on the third day is when I told my wife, I was like, I didn't want to say it because I wanted to see what would happen, but it
kind of like you were running an experiment at this point.
I was like, it took a level of anxiety off of me. I thought I was just high that day because of the DMT, but I feel it. I still feel that calmness.
Like it stripped away a layer of anxiety.
Yeah. And
it's crazy to me. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I am going to. It seems to me that like your dad talking, and like people that kind of grew up in the age where it was like, I mean, up until very recently, all this stuff was so taboo.
Yeah.
And the reasoning behind it, ridiculous, obviously, as we've become more mature and your eyes are kind of open to things. But I don't think people realize how much, this kind of stuff can actually help. And it's not just a party thing. It's like literally like a therapeutic psychedelic experience for a lot of people.
Oh, definitely. And then, so I did DMT one more time, and then my friend moved. So my DMT connect was gone, and I started doing mushrooms, and it helped. So when Mike brought that up, the ketamine therapy, I actually messaged him the next day, and I was like, I'm ready. I want to do this. Mm-hmm. And he had brought it up before, but I just wasn't ready for something like that. But he would tell me stories on how he used to be, right? For example, people would cut him off on the freeway and they'd be flipping each other off, and the guy would say, "I'm gonna fuck you up" or whatever, and a gun would be pulled out, and he's like, "You're gonna fuck up who?" Or like just be at a bar and a fight happens, and he would just head kick the dude, and he he was telling me stories on how he used to be, and it didn't make sense. I'm like, the Mike I know,
The mellowest dude.
yeah,
Yeah.
super hippie dude. I'm like, that can't be the same person. So me doing my psychedelic thing on the side, and then him bringing it up, I was like, you know what, I'm ready for it. So it was with a company called Field Trip Health in Santa Monica, and Mike had explained what was going to happen. You know, you kind of go under, you don't feel anything, and I was scared. I remember as I was going to the place, I remember thinking, like, I hope I get in a car crash because I don't want to do this. I was that nervous and scared of it, because you're putting yourself in a vulnerable place. You're going under around strangers that you don't know. But Mike said, we got a veteran program going on. I will be there. So I said, okay. And it made me feel a little bit better. And the way that day played out, I really like it. Mike had booked two, because I'm also cadre for Defense Strategies Group, which is Mike's company, and we teach anybody from law enforcement to a grandma that wants to learn how to shoot. And he's like, hey, can you help me train this one guy midday, and then you can take off to your 2:00 in Santa Monica? And I was like, okay. So my mind was busy, so I didn't have to think about it. And then Mike tells me, hey man, you got to go to Santa Monica now, you should probably take off. So I start driving, and I'm on the freeway dealing with traffic, and as soon as I get into Field Trips Health building, it's like I was shooting, I was in traffic, and then now I'm in this open building. They own the whole floor. It's very calming, open space, bright colors, a bunch of plants, no one's wearing shoes. It's very quiet. You can't even hear the outside world. And I'm like, where am I? I go speak with their physical examiner, a therapist, and by the time I come out, Mike is in there. I left Mike at the range. Now I see Mike in the lobby. He's like, are you ready? I was like, yes. So it was another Ranger and I. And so I remember I was scared because when they took us to a room, it was like huge pillows. It's a bed, but it's just a huge pillow bed. Like it's very low to the ground. I lay down there. They put a weighted blanket on me. They put eye shades on my face, and they tell me, you know, you ready? I said yes. And they injected me and with ketamine in my muscle, and immediately I was wondering, when am I gonna? And before I even finish feel it, I start feeling the body high, and then I couldn't feel the weighted blanket on my chest, and then I couldn't feel my back to the ground, and then I was kind of going mentally, like I couldn't feel my body, and then I could, in a faraway distance, I could hear them say, how are you doing? And I was like, oh, good. They're like, do you want to go deeper, or do you want to stay? I said deeper, and they asked me how much, and I said a lot. So they injected me with more, and it hit hard. I saw shapes, like triangles, and I'm not even describing, I'm not doing it justice.
Right.
Triangles forming and swirling and disappearing in the center with colors, noises, things stacking on top of each other, and I thought I had died. And I'm like, I'm dead. And then I knew we were going to take our first family trip, and I remember thinking I didn't get to do my family trip. I didn't get to tell my wife certain things. I didn't get to tell my kids certain things. And then I started questioning, and these thoughts would go back and forth. I think about like, I'm dead, to my family, to, and before all this, the reason why they do the therapy is because they want you to get out of it. They don't want you to just get high. Mm-hmm. So for example, the therapist asked me, what do you want out of this? And I said, I want to be a better human being. And then he said, what does that look like? And then I answered that. And then he said, what would that do for you? I answered that. And then he said, what would that do for your everyday relationships that you have? And I answered that. So I thought I was going to get secrets from how to be a better human being, like some type of cheat codes or something, but I just thought about my family. And then I asked myself, if I'm dead, then what am I? What is this? I was like, well, I'm energy then. And then I'm like, well, where do I go? Clearly, I don't have a body. but I can think, so I'm conscious. And then I started questioning my life. I'm like, did I even exist? Did I picture a family? Did I daydream a family that wasn't there? And then the highs coming down. I can feel a little bit the blanket on my chest, and then I blinked and I could feel a tear. And then I blinked again. I could feel more, and then I felt all the tears. I don't know when, but at one point I'd start crying. Then I could start moving my fingers, and then I can eventually move my whole body, and I take off the shades, and I look at Mike, and Mike he's just happy for me, and he's got like tears of joy in his eyes, and he just looks at me, and he's just like shaking his head, like he didn't even say anything. He's like, and I was just shaking my head. And the way the deal was set up, we would stay at Mike's house because you can't drive afterwards. Sure. But based off me just thinking about my family in certain ways, I told Mike, like, hey man, I don't want to be here. I want to go home. So he said, wait a couple hours, which we did, and then I drove home. I got home. My wife didn't expect me, and she said, what happened? I was like, but I was so tired. Right. I told her, I just thought about my family, and then I fell asleep. And then I woke up, and she was already making breakfast, and I stopped her. I was like, I need to tell you something. And I said, I thought I was going to get cheat codes to life and be a better human being, but I could just think about my family, and I realized that we're about to hit 12 years of being married, and I just wasn't the husband that I am now. Right. I wasn't the person I should have been. You didn't deserve a lot of the stuff that happened, and I miss a lot about my kids. I missed a lot about their lives. Right? I wasn't there when my kids were born because I was deployed, but I didn't know how much it hurt. I knew it hurt, but I didn't know how much. So I told my son, my oldest, and my daughter, but I was mostly talking to my oldest. I was like, you guys may not understand, but I miss a lot about you guys' life, and I didn't like it, and it hurt, but I didn't realize how much it hurt until now. We're about to go on vacation. You guys are about to go summer and summer break, and I really want to get to know you. I don't know you guys. I don't know what makes you you. My 2-year-old, I know what makes her. These little things, you know. And then my son started crying. He said, I'm happy to hear that. I'm happy that you're saying this. And I think sometimes I forget that just because they're children that they may not understand, but as soon as he said that, I was like, he knew. He knew. Yeah. He understood. And it made me do things that I would do because my wife told me. Sure. You know, now I'm doing these things because I want to do these things because I know what they mean for the overall picture. I'm a lot more relaxed, calm, and that's what I was missing in my life. I was doing all these things to be mentally and physically balanced, but I was always have these episodes where it was a clear picture that you're not as mentally balanced as you are until I did this psychedelic experience.
I guess like I mean, we are moving into a different time in society where things like this, these remedies or options that were one time thought of as these dark things. Like, you know, I think I listened to your experience. It's incredible. I can understand the fear because maybe for someone like me, you know, everyone's got their closets they don't want to open in their head. And there's a lot of shit, a lot of trauma that I have in there that I don't know if I want to go in there. But like, you know, listening to your story, it isn't all doom and gloom. You know, you find different ways to process that information. Like you were saying, like you think about your family. It's not all, you're not going to relive every trauma that you've had. You find a way to deal with that in your own way. Oh yeah, 100%.
And I that was one of the big reasons why I was so scared is because I thought, what am I going to go through? What you know, and that whole day that was a Monday. Monday was a very powerful experience. Tuesday, I'm still trying to process it, and because mine trains as well in kickboxing, jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. He's like, hey, I'll see you at your gym for the personal training that we're gonna do with the coach, right? Tyler Wombles from Classic Fight Team. He's like, oh, I'll see you there, and then we'll just drive together to Santa Monica for your other session. And I remember thinking, what? I remember like this. I'm still trying to process this first powerful experience, and you're telling me you have another one the next day. So we train, and I wasn't as scared, but I was just like, oh my god, like another one. So I go into it, and the first one they gave me 25 milligrams, and then they gave me 60. When they asked me if I wanted more, they gave me 65 more. So this time they were like, hey, instead of splitting it, we're just gonna give you all 90 milligrams of ketamine at once. And I said okay. So I did it. It was a much mellow, or not that the first one was negative, but the second experience was more mellow, and I knew I wasn't going to die. I did think about my family, but I thought about other things, and then this one I went back to childhood memories, and I could these memories that were in my head that I forgot about. I remember playing in dirt with the 99-cent bag of plastic soldiers that you get, making trenches. I remember Power Rangers. And one of the things that I thought about was that the work that I'm doing, people matter. I knew this, but it just confirmed that people matter the most. And I am in a particular position to help, and I should continue it, because the things that I've been doing, being public about a lot of things, and starting a company, doing these events, people would tell me, stop spending money on these events. He's like, are you charging these people? I'm like, no, it's free. They're like, what are you doing? And they would tell me not to do that. They would tell me to charge these people. And for an average vehicle course, it's your minimum $400 per person. And they're like, you're doing this for free, and you're knocking multiple events per year. And they're like, where are you making this money? And I'm like, all the money's gone every single month. As soon as Shopify gives me all my money, it is gone in sponsorships, and I drop off food to food banks, where the places where I used to be in line to see what clothes or food I would get as a kid. I am now dropping the food off there, and I take my kids with me to all this stuff, because I want them to see the work, and the second experience confirmed it. What you're doing is the path. You know, will I be a millionaire? Probably not the way that I'm going, but the work is there. A bunch of veterans tell me like, dude, this event today, it meant so much to me. You have no idea. Like, and I'll be like, oh man, yeah, dude, I'm so happy that you came out. And they'll be like, no, dude, stop. Like, I was in a dark place. My dad had just died. You know, I was just in a dark time. All right, and seeing what you're doing, and seeing that people care, did a lot for me. And I'm like, dude, you're welcome to come to any event and all events. And it helped me. It was the missing piece to be physically and mentally balanced, in my opinion. And I hope in the future we will look back at these times that we're giving pills, not just to veterans, but to society in general. And we're going to look back and be like, those were some crazy times.
Dude, I mean, you talked about someone who walked the path, and you don't know you're walking the path until you have a confirmation experience like this. But it's pretty freaking incredible, dude. Like, honestly, to be able to like make a difference in people's lives like this.
I agree.
It's freaking awesome.
I couldn't agree more. Insane. And I think the thing that why people are attracted to what you do is your vulnerability, especially men, and being open. It's not something you see from a lot of people. And the fact that you share these things are super helpful. But my question for you is, what advice would you give to a person? You're a driven person.
Yeah.
To make yourself the best mentally, physically, all this. The guy who has a crappy diet, who's maybe a veteran, who is depressed, who's in that hole and feels like there's no way out, what do you say to that person?
I would say that you got to start one day, and you might go 5 days straight into a program and then just quit for 3 days. That's okay if you start it back up. I entered special operations, and the reason why I talk about all this stuff is because hopefully it helps, and it has. At this point, about 24 guys have messaged me, and they're like, hey, I saw your videos, man. Now I'm in special operations. I'm in the 75th Ranger Regiment, or I'm a special forces guy, and it gave me hope, because I don't look like Thor. So when I tell people like, hey man, I was a malnourished, poor kid, and I built myself to this, it lets them know that, hey, then I can do it too. So I would say it's one day at a time, believe in yourself. You're not going to get all the success or not even success, improvements in physical shape and mood and quality of life in one day. You have to keep at it, and eventually it will all come. All the good things in life aren't just handed. They're the hardest things to get, and I think it's for a reason, because in the world, the weird way, the universe just balances that out. If you want all these things, you gotta kind of work for it.
You're inspiring, man, and we couldn't be more stoked to have you on the show and to share and just to be honest. Where can people find you on Instagram?
So my company's name is The OG Pumpkin, so it's the _OG _pumpkin. My personal one is Angel G Cortez, Cortes 175, and the G is between. It's my middle name. It's really important, because if you don't put the G,
someone else pops up.
This guy he's in his 50s.
Yeah.
He's jacked. He likes to take pictures.
Say it again. What is yours? It's Angel
G Cortez 175.
Okay.
Because if you only put Angel Cortez 175, I'm telling you, you're gonna look it up.
Dude, he's doing great work, and also if you're looking for training as far as learning how to shoot properly, defense strategies group, you can go online, look at them. They're amazing. Angel, you're the best, dude. We hope to have you back someday, man. Thank you for being
seriously,
here, man.
like that's
Appreciate it, brother.
It's for me to like hear that, just sounds like some freaking snowboard dork, and it's the real life experience, especially in light of where we are today in society. It's freaking important, man. It's really important, and I think that I'm glad that you came here and shared that with us.
No, I'm glad that you guys had me on.
We should go skateboarding at Anarchy Park right now. Up the street. It's the new skate park where all the crazy e-bike kids are. Go over there. All right, you guys, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah. NewGreens.